Hey there, Python trainer Reuven Learner here, and today I want to explore a simple Python function with you, not at the level of Python, but at the level of Python bytecode. And we're going to find some surprises in Python bytecode. Now, if you're wondering what Python bytecodes are, you have to remember that Python is a compiled language. That is to say, before Python can execute our code, it has to go through two stages. First, it is compiled from what we type, the Python code, into bytecodes, into what you can think of as a high-level assembly language. Then those bytecodes, those opcodes, are executed by the Python interpreter one by one by one. And if I define a function, I can actually get a glimpse of what's going on there. So I'm going to say here def myfunc, and then I'm going to say here x equals 5, return x. Okay, and now I'm going to use one of my favorite modules in Python, dis, the disassembly module. I'm going to say dis.dis, that is, I'm going to run the dis function in, not dis function, I'm going to run the dis function in the dis module on my func, and we're going to see what's going on behind the scenes. And we first of all see that there's resume. That's in all modern Python functions once they are compiled. Then it says load const 5, meaning we are going to grab the constant 5, and we're going to talk about that in a moment. Then we're going to store it in a variable, but we're not going to store it in any old variable. We're going to store it in a local variable. That's what it means to use store fast. Then we're going to load fast. We're going to load that local variable, and then we're going to return it. And that's kind of what you would expect. We're storing 5 in x, we're retrieving 5 from x, and then we are returning it. So far, so good. So what is this load const doing? Well, basically, it is saying to the function, load up the constant that you stored at index 1, and that is going to be the value 5. What do you mean stored at index 1? Well, every function in Python is actually an object. If I say myfunc.dundercode.co consts, I'm going to have a tuple of constants. And the first one, index 0, is always or almost always none. And then the next one that was available, is 5. So when we wrote this function, when we defined this function, when Python compiled this function into bytecodes, it left a whole bunch of hints for itself. And one of those hints is the constant. So any inline value you have, integer, string, list, we're going to see more about that in a moment, is then stored in CO const, and then we can just sort of retrieve it. This also means that if we use the same constant multiple times, it doesn't need to be stored multiple times. It can be stored once in CO consts and then used as many times as we need. Okay, so far, so good. What if I change this function a bit? What if I say def myfunc? Now I'm going to say x equals 10, 20, 30. I'm going to say return x. So how is this going to be different? Dis.dis of myfunc, and watch this. It's wildly different. So we have resume. Okay, again, every function has that. We're going to create this build list opcode. What? So we are creating an empty list, a list of 0 elements. Then we are loading a constant, but it's not a list constant. It is a tuple constant, and that tuple constant is on CO const and is retrieved from index 1. So if I now go to myfunc and I say dundercode CO consts, we are going to see that it has none at index 0, and it has the tuple 10, 20, 30 at index 1. But wait a second, I want a list, right? That's right. When you have an inline list in your function, it is stored as a tuple of all the elements that you wanted inside of CO consts, and then that tuple is used. We build the list with 0 elements, we load the constant, and then we extend the list with all the elements of that tuple. And then we store that list that we've just built in X. That is to say, the constants will never include a direct list. Rather, they will include a tuple. And then we just load it up as before. And notice, load fast, we never care in Python what kind of value something is, because variables in Python, like all dynamic languages, are not typed, whereas values are. So I'm going to say load fast to x. If you say load fast to x, it's going to work the same way. By the way, notice that we don't say load fast to x directly. We say store fast in 0 and load fast in 0. What is this 0? You probably figured it out. I can say myfunc dundercode CO var names. And guess what is at index 0 in var names? It is x. So these hints, the things in the dundercode object that are part of every function object, Those are the hints, and they give us some insights into what's going on. I hope this was useful and interesting. Leave your comments and suggestions. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll be back real soon with lots more about Python pandas and everything in between. See you then.